So when I was little and it started getting cooler outside, my mom would always make a potato soup. And she's the queen of potato soup. She'll tell you, everyone will tell you. So we're gonna do actually a made-over version of her soup. We're gonna do a roasted potato and garlic soup. And what I'm really excited about this soup is that I love it when you get a roasted potato and it's crispy on both sides and you just get that crunch, almost like a potato chip. We're gonna take our potato and we're gonna actually chop this in wedges. Chop them nice and thin so that you can get a really nice crisp on both sides in the oven. And you know, my philosophy is take a little extra time to make things really, really nice. So then what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually put together our sauce, which is gonna bake the roasted potatoes. And it's gonna be butter, garlic, and some fresh rosemary, which I actually got out of my neighbor's garden. And I'm just gonna chop up about a tablespoon of it. And I love fresh rosemary. It smells very piney. It reminds me of the holidays, and try to get it fresh. It always makes a big difference. It's all about the details, like I said. So I'm gonna take about this much. This looks good. And we're just gonna go ahead and mince this up a little bit. I get that beautiful smell all over again when I chop it up. So I'm gonna go ahead and turn on my pan here, and we're gonna throw in 4 tablespoons of butter. And we're gonna let that melt a little bit. And the main thing about this is that we just want the butter to melt, and we're gonna throw in our garlic, and we're gonna throw in our rosemary, and it's just gonna have a beautiful aroma. And we don't need to overcook it because we're also gonna put it into the oven to bake with the potatoes once we're done with that part. I've got a little bit of a method for chopping garlic. Makes it nice and easy is I just chop it lengthwise. Then I just make some horizontal cut sections. And then we're just gonna chop the garlic in sections like this. And you don't have to make it too finely minced because we want that nice buttery garlic taste. Perfect. I'm just take that garlic, I'm gonna throw it in there. And I've got actually about 6 cloves of garlic because again, this soup is a roasted potato and garlic soup, so we don't want to miss that garlic factor. I'm going to throw that garlic in there. Get all the little pieces. They all matter. And then we're going to throw in our rosemary. All right. It smells so good. Yum! And we're just going to let it roast just a tiny bit. You do not want to overcook garlic because it gets chewy and burnt and kind of gross, and so we're gonna just turn off the heat there completely. And then we're gonna drizzle this over our potatoes. Awesome. We're just gonna toss it around a little bit. Make sure we get that yummy, buttery goodness on every potato. They do not like to be left out because when we put it on the pan in the oven, we wanna make sure they don't stick too much. Perfect. We're gonna lay out these potatoes in a line, and this is another extra tiny little step, but I'm a huge believer in just making things special and delicious, and so this tiny little extra step will make sure that every potato gets nice and crisp. So we're gonna lay these out like a pretty little chorus line. And then what we're gonna do is halfway through, we're gonna flip them over like I said, and we're gonna actually roast them for about a half an hour. We don't need to roast them for as long when we turn them on the other side. It just needs to get that little bronze golden look to it. Okay, so we're just gonna sprinkle on some of this reserved garlic here that's still in the bottom of the bowl. And then we're gonna pop this in the oven at 350 degrees for about 30 minutes. We're gonna start there, and then we're gonna flip them over. Okay, so we're gonna get started on our soup base, and I'm gonna pull out some more potatoes. We've got 1 large onion. And we're just gonna start chopping. While we're gonna start chopping our onions, I'm actually going to get a pot, and we're gonna put a little olive oil in here. We're gonna start cooking our onions. All right, we're gonna let that start cooking. We're gonna start cutting our potatoes. So we're just actually gonna cut these lengthwise, and then we're gonna dice them this way. Okay, that's sounding really good. I'm gonna stir this around a little bit here. Perfect. We're just gonna, like I said, let them get nice and translucent. And then we're gonna start on our garlic. We're gonna reserve these over here. We're gonna do our same technique as before, putting in a full 6 cloves of garlic in here. And it doesn't have to be a really fine chop, because because I don't mind getting a little piece of garlic in the soup. It's going to be boiled for a while, and so it's not going to be as, you know, when garlic gets cooked, it's really not nearly as potent as it is when it's raw. So you don't have to be quite as afraid of it in terms of being too much when you're doing something like a soup or even sauteing it. Okay. Like I said before, I want the garlic to get browned a little bit, but definitely not overcooked. And again, this is the soup base, so we're going to be putting like vegetable stock in here and everything, and so it's going to have a long time to simmer and you know, get married with everything in the pot. Everyone's going to get to know each other in the pot. So the next thing I'm going to do is get my vegetable stock, which I have in the fridge, and I pulled out my cream as well, which we're going to use later. I'm going to go ahead and pour this in here. So we're going to let that boil. We're going to throw in the potatoes. And we want to boil this and cook it until the potatoes are soft and easy to pierce with a fork, because we're actually going to blend this, and we don't want our potatoes too al dente. Okay, so we're going to take the roasted potatoes out of the oven. I got a really nice whiff of that delicious buttery garlic. Love it. And we're just going to actually flip these over and see how beautiful that is? Really crispy and yummy. That's exactly what I wanted. All right, so our potatoes are nice and soft and ready to be blended. And like I said, we're gonna blend half the base mixture so it has that really nice creamy texture to it. Now you can take this off and get a little closer. I wanna make sure you guys are really careful when you do this, because I do not want you to be sending yourself to the burn unit, you know? But be careful. Okay. Make sure to put this on the top. Otherwise, you will for sure send yourself to the burn unit, okay? So that is securely on top. And we're gonna go ahead and we're just gonna mix it. And that's it. And now we have the yummiest parts, the cream and the salt. All right, this is what makes soup taste really delicious. You gotta have that salt. I almost like to take a moment of silence for salt, because it just does so much for us in the culinary world. Okay, so our roasted potatoes, we're gonna take those out. And I'm just gonna quickly just start kind of chopping them. It doesn't have to be in any specific order. You just wanna get them into bite-sized pieces. Love that. Okay, so let's try this. Let's see how this turned out. We're gonna ladle in some of this yummy soup. Sprinkle some beautiful roasted potatoes right on top. It's like potatoes three ways. It's the creamy with the chunky and the crispy. Oh, gorgeous. Isn't that such a beautiful presentation? I love it.